Hi everyone. I thought I would give you a bit of an explanation as to what you'll be doing in science this week. And you'll see this listed in Google Classroom, of course. We're calling this a claim evidence reasoning packet. And what you'll see here, of course, is what I'm going to share with you. You've got a couple pages that are here for you to write your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning. But when you scroll through these 3 pages, you get to what they're calling stations. So this would have been, had we been at school, this would have been spots around the room that you would travel to, you and a partner, and you would be looking at the data on the page here at station 1, and then you'd be reading the directions, and then you and your partner would kind of look at this and go, okay, what claim can we make? What evidence on this graph or chart is supporting our claim, and then the reasoning is something like, okay, well, why does this happen in the first place? So I thought I would give you an example by kind of walking through your first claim evidence reasoning, or CER. So when you get this, you don't have to print it out. You can write your claim evidence and reasoning. You can type it out on a Google Doc, and then you can share that with me when you're done. But each station gets its own section for claim evidence and reasoning. So when we look at station 1's graph, this area here on this page is where you would write your claim, your evidence, and your reasoning. So let's quickly look at this first one as an example. And yes, you can use this as one of the ones you have to do. Okay, so here we have a station where the graph is, as it says in the directions, it represents the water level in Alcatraz Island in the San Francisco Bay. So the water level is behaving in a certain way by looking at this graph, right? The water level is up 6 feet above normal, above your sea level, at this time, 11:17 a.m. And then a number of hours later, about 6 or so, the water level has gone down. And then another 6 or so hours later, the graph shows that the water level has come up again. And then another 6 hours or so later, it's down, and then up, and then down, and then up, and then you can see it kind of tail off towards the very end there. Here are the timestamps for when these minimums and these maximums occur. And so what it's asking for you really to do is write a claim, give evidence, and reasoning based on what the graph is showing you. So there's a number of claims we can make by just looking at this graph. Probably one of the most obvious is that one of the most obvious claims is that the ocean levels, or the water levels there at Alcatraz, change about every 6 hours. That's a claim that I can make. Okay. What evidence do I have here that supports my claim that the water level changes in Alcatraz Island every 6 or so hours? Well, every so my evidence would be on this graph. There's a peak, or what we might call a crest, and then 6 hours later there's a dip or a trough. And this pattern is repeating on the graph. So there's your evidence. This pattern of 6 hour up, 6 hour down is repeating on the graph. So lastly, then what is my reasoning? Well, reasoning for what? Let's go back up to the very top, and it explains what a reasoning is. We know what a claim is you're making a statement based on observation. Your evidence is the data that you see in that picture, or in that article, or in that graph that supports the claim you're making, the statement you're making, the fact that you're attempting to support. And then the reasoning is, okay, why does this thing that you stated in your claim, why does that even happen? So what caused your claim? All right, so let's go back and look at the data here. If you remember, the claim that we made was every 6 hours the water level is changing from a maximum to a minimum at Alcatraz Island. That is a claim that we're making. Well, the reasoning is asking us to think about, well, why does that even occur in the first place? What's the reason that this claim can happen? What is the reason? What's going on that makes the water level do that? So the example here that I would give for the reasoning is the reason why the water level is changing every 6 or so hours is a response to the tides. The tides are going in and out. And the tides go in and out twice every 12 hours. So 4 times a day. You got 2 maximums or high tides and you got 2 low tides in a 24-hour period. Why does that happen? Because of the positioning of the sun, moon, and earth as they all change their positions relative to each other. Earth, sun, moon, and their positions, that's something that we looked at in the 7th grade. So there's my reasoning. So let's do a quick summary. I'm looking at the station information here. This is station 1. I'm looking at the graph or the picture that they provide. I'm analyzing the graph so I can figure out what it's trying to tell me. Once I've looked at the graph and I've figured out what it's trying to tell me, I can make a claim about what this graph, I can make any claim about what, any information on this graph. To me, the most obvious claim is that if I look at this graph and I follow the chart, follow the line on the chart, it has a repeating pattern every 6 hours. A crest, then a trough. A crest, then a trough. There are other claims on here that you could make. So there's more than one claim that you can, write down. But to me, the most obvious one is every 6 hours or so, the water level goes to a maximum or a minimum. What was my evidence? Well, the graph shows a high point followed by a low point on the graph about every 6 hours apart. So the graph shows this pattern repeating. That's my evidence. So then the reasoning, remember, think about the reasoning as why does the claim even happen in the first place? What physical thing or what mechanism or what natural happening is making the claim do what it does? So in this case, why does the water go up and then down and up and down every 6 or so hours? And that answer or that reasoning is because that's how the tides work. The moon's gravity is pulling on the Earth's water. The sun's gravity is pulling on the Earth's water. And because their position changes and because the Earth spins and it rotates one time every 24 hours, so because it's rotating and the positions of the sun and moon trying to pull on our water, the water is going to react to those gravitational pulls. So you're going to have areas of the water where they're pulled a lot, and that represents a high tide. And the areas of the water that's not being pulled very much at all, that's where you're finding low tide. So there's your reasoning. The gravitational pull between the moon and the sun on the Earth create high tides and low tides every day. And that's why the graph does what it does. There are, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 different stations. Okay, so you will basically do the same process that I just modeled for you. Look at the picture or diagram. What is it trying to tell me? Then, can I make a claim about what I'm seeing or about what the data is trying to tell me? What's the evidence that supports my claim? The evidence is going to be in that graph. Well, it went very high over here, so that leads me to believe my claim. Or it went very low over here, so that leads me to believe my claim. Or the colors turn very purple over here, and that means a lot of water. Or the colors get very yellow over here, and that means very little water. Read the graph, read the chart, take a look at the data, and see if you can find a claim, and then and what in that data is supporting your claim. What does the data say? Well, the line went up, so that's why my claim means this. Or the line went down, so that's why my claim means this. And then finally, the reasoning. Why or what is causing this thing to happen in the first place? Why do we get hit X amount of times by very small meteorites? Why do we get hit X amount of times with super huge asteroids? And when I mean we, I mean the Earth. Okay? Why do those things happen, or why do they not happen? That's the thinking behind these CER stations. So this is what you're going to do for the whole week, for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting the week of, I believe it's the 6th. Let me look at my dates to make sure. And so, yeah, so for April 7, 8, and 9, thank you for the confirmation. Thank you to my computer for showing the calendar. So for April 7, 8, and 9, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 30 minutes in those 3 days, try to accomplish this. I'll be posting this into Google Classrooms and letting people know how many of these to attempt. Okay? So if you have any questions, please email me. If you have questions, you can also jump in on our weekly Zoom meetings. They happen on Wednesdays. If you're in one of my regular classes, that's periods 2, 6, 7, and 9, that meeting happens at noon. If you're in my advanced class, that meeting happens every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Okay, so if you have questions and you want to bring them to the weekly meeting, do that. If you'd rather email, that's great. Okay, good luck, and I look forward to the time where I can see you in person again, hopefully soon.